Not a single day goes by that we don't eat in order to keep ourselves healthy and to participate in various activities. Eating a meal is not simply the physical intake of calories or to provide nutritional supplement. According to the first divine message, the divine message of Seicho-No-Ie meals that descended from the Spirit of the Lord to Reverend Masaharu Taniguchi in November 1930, taking a meal is really the most solemn ceremony that we undertake, in which we make an offering to God who dwells within us. The Seicho-No-Ie president, Reverend Masanobu Taniguchi, teaches us about meals and prayer in his blog, Karamatsu Moyo, as follows. Nowadays, those religious elements have all but disappeared from meals. However, if they are Japanese, even those who regard themselves as being irreligious surely wouldn't feel too uncomfortable with the Japanese custom of putting their hands together saying "itadakimasu" before and "gochitsou-sama" after meals. I believe that behind this custom there was and still is feelings of gratitude to not only the providers of our meals, but also to the natural world which provides us with the ingredients, and even gratitude to the creator of nature. Therefore, I think we can say that our meals are the best opportunities for us to be aware of the relationship of God and nature and human beings, and to pray for the grand harmony of the three. Then, in order to pray for the grand harmony of God, nature, and human beings, what is it that our meals should consist of? Seicho-No-Ie is now encouraging people to reduce the amount of meat in their diet, and moreover, promoting a no-meat diet, that is, eating as little meat as possible. One of the reasons behind this is religious, and the other has to do with the impact meat eating has on the global environment, etc. First, we'll explain the religious reason. Seicho-No-Ie teaches us that all human beings are children of God, and that everything in heaven and earth around us, including livestock such as cattle, pigs, etc., and plants and minerals, are all manifestations of the life of God. In particular, the brains of higher mammals such as cattle and pigs have well-developed brains, and therefore, they have their own minds. In Japan, just until a few decades ago, when farmers relied upon them for agricultural work, livestock such as cattle and horses were treated like family members. A farmer explained how a bull wouldn't move at all, even when he tried to make the animal work a little longer in the evening, when it was already exhausted from having plowed the soil of the rice fields. However, he said, it began to move slowly after he said, "All right, I get it. Let's go home now." Higher animals that have their own minds are terrified, in the same way as human beings are when they face death. In a presentation made at the 2006 Seicho-No-Ie Special Conference for World Peace, with the theme Thinking of Meat Eating and World Peace, there was a description of how cattle get to the slaughterhouse and, realizing what's to happen to them, refuse to move out of sheer fright. According to the presentation, they urinate and cry real tears. The presentation showed how eating meat comes from these animals with life and emotions having been slaughtered. In Buddhism, the first of the 10 essential precepts taught by the Buddha is that of not killing. Through the law of cause and effect, the act of killing results in those who kill being killed. Therefore, we should avoid eating meat for the religious reason that we are all manifestations of the life of God and one with each other in the life of God. The second reason to reduce or eliminate meat in our diets is the impact that meat consumption has on the global environment. Nowadays, Weather-related disasters are being caused by abnormal weather conditions never observed in the past 30 or more years. In 2013, 17 countries and regions around the world were heavily damaged by the forces of nature. The cause is global warming from greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide emitted from human activities. Although it may seem to be entirely unrelated, it can be said that one of the causes is our habit of eating meat. Just 50 years ago, the world population was about 3 billion, and now it is up to about 7 billion. Meanwhile, the amount of annual meat consumption has increased by about 5 times, going from 51 million to 251 million tons. The increase in the demand for meat is not only due to population growth alone, but economic development brings an increase in income levels, which results in a change in dietary habits, and the amount of meat consumed thereby increases. The growing demand for meat has led to deforestation in order to produce the feed grains for livestock and to make way for grazelands. Thus, the area used for the livestock industry covers 30% of the Earth's surface. Especially in South America, 17.5 million hectares, 40% of the rainforests in South America, have been cut down for beef production in the last 4 decades. Even today, an area of the world's rainforests equivalent to 2 soccer fields is disappearing per second. Consequently, an area of forest comparable to the size of the islands of Hokkaido, Shikoku, and Kyushu together is being lost each year. The amount of carbon dioxide that is not absorbed by the forest due to deforestation reaches as much as 17% of the total emissions. Deforestation is something that accelerates global warming. Moreover, each ruminant animal, such as a cow, goat, or sheep, belches as much as 500 liters a day of methane, which has 23 times more greenhouse effect than carbon dioxide. Now that there are about 3.1 billion ruminant animals alone on the Earth, the total amount of methane produced per day is equivalent to the volume of 1,250 Tokyo domes. This number accounts for as much as 18% of the total greenhouse gas emissions measured in carbon dioxide equivalents. A 2009 report for the World Watch Institute shows that when greenhouse gases such as methane emitted by livestock, deforestation to use land for growing feed and grazing livestock, and transportation of vast amount of meat are all taken into consideration, livestock and their byproducts actually count for at least 32.6 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalents per year, or 51% of the annual worldwide greenhouse gas emissions. This fact also shows us just how serious the damage of meat diets is on our global environment. And we must remember another key fact. It is said that 870 million people throughout the world suffer from hunger, and about 15 million people, including 1 child every 5 seconds, die of hunger-related causes every year. This is not because there is a food shortage worldwide. Each year, 2.3 billion tons of grain is produced worldwide. And if equally distributed among the world's 7 billion people, that would be 328 kilograms per person annually. The required annual intake per person is 180 kilograms. So grains alone are sufficient. Then, what causes food shortages? One of the biggest given factors is that 1/3 of the world's grain production is used as feed for livestock, poultry, and farm-raised fish. In order to fatten cattle and farm-raised fish as quickly as possible, they are given grains such as corn, something that is not in their normal diet. 7 kilograms of grains are necessary for a cow to gain 1 kilogram. 4 kilograms are necessary for a pig, 2 kilograms for a chicken, and 1.8 kilograms for a large fish. You can see that the food conversion efficiencies of cattle and pigs are low. The staple food in developing countries such as Africa is corn. But people in those countries are unable to receive sufficient amounts because about 1/3 of grain production worldwide is used as feed for livestock. In other words, the act of eating meat is depriving people in poor countries of their food. It would be possible for us to solve the problem of world hunger if about 1/3 of the world's grain production is used to feed those in need and not as feed for livestock. The other factors that can be mentioned here are the loss and waste of food worldwide. Despite there being people who suffer from hunger, while Japan imports 55 million tons of food annually, it discards 18 million tons of food each year, including 10 million tons from households, which is equivalent to the annual amount of food for 50 million people in developing countries. Unfortunately, although Japan imports more than half of its food, it is the country responsible for wasting the greatest amount of food in the world. With increased globalization, Japan too imports all kinds of food from around the world. According to estimates in 2001, Japan has by far the greatest total food mileage, which is the volume of imported food multiplied by the distance of transportation. And Japan's per capita food mileage is also number 1 in the world. The higher the food mileage, the more carbon dioxide is emitted. So, in order to improve current circumstances, local production for local consumption is needed. We must remember that not only do the large amounts of carbon dioxide emitted by food transportation and also by the meat-related industries cause global warming and destroy the Earth's environment, but dependence on fossil fuels leads to the scrambling for underground resources, which in turn threatens world peace. The president of the Seicho-No-Ie White Dove Association, Mrs. Junko Taniguchi, teaches us in her book, Oishii no meat shiki no megumi bento, delicious no meat seasonal whole food box meals, as follows. We human beings cannot live without eating every day. We can increase or reduce carbon dioxide emissions depending on what we eat, where the food we eat comes from, and how the ingredients of our meals are grown. Moreover, there are some foods that deprive people in poor countries of their food. Therefore, we can contribute greatly to world peace by not depriving other people of their food, not destroying the global environment with pesticides, and by striving for local production for local consumption. We can see the direct connection of our kitchens with the problems of our environment, resources, and peace. What we choose is very important. We are children of God. All plants, animals, and minerals on earth are precious lives of God as well. So let's be deeply aware that we are all one in the life of God. Enjoy the kinds of meals which delight our indwelling God, and make our dining tables ones of grand harmony of God, nature, and human beings.